What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be going over some programming exercises. I've recently started interviewing and I've been having to go over algorithms, data structures and all that sort of stuff. If you're a software engineer, you understand the pains that comes with interviewing as a software engineer. Today I'm going to be covering an example of that. I will start using a very simple example from a website called LeetCode, which is similar to HackerRank and other websites that basically allow you to sharpen your skills as a software engineer. I'm going to be covering that. I'm going to go over 3 different ways to solve it, from something that's not so elegant to something that's a little more elegant and using modern code. This is an exercise that you've probably seen before. We're going to be removing duplicates from an array. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright guys, I have logged into my LeetCode account and I have the issue that we're trying to solve, which is to remove duplicates from a sorted array. Now I'm going to read through the instructions here because there's some things here that we need to pay attention to. So, given a sorted array nums, remove duplicates in place such that each element appear only once and return the new length. Do not allocate extra space for another array. You must do this by modifying the input array in place with O of 1 extra memory. So the things that we need to pay attention here is the word that they use when they say in place. That basically means that we cannot create another array and sort of play around with modifying different arrays to create the final array that we want. They want you to do an in place, and there's going to be several ways that we are able to handle this. The first one is going to be using a swap method, which is sort of more along the lines of traditional programming. We're going to use a for loop and we're going to be swapping values. Let's get started. Here, I'm going to quickly just convert this remove duplicates function into an arrow function. The first thing that we're going to do is create a variable called I and set that equal to 0. So we're creating the for loop. We're going to create the variable j and set that to 1. And then we're going to go until the end of the array. That is the condition nums.length. And then as usual, we're going to increment j because this is a traditional for loop. The first thing we're going to do is check the condition if nums I is not equal to nums j. And inside there, the first thing that we're going to do is increment I. And then once we've incremented I, we are going to set nums I equals to nums j. So this is where we're doing the swap. And the last thing we're going to do outside of the for loop is return I plus 1. What this is doing is, I'll explain a little later, but when we're going through this loop, we're going to get a value for I. All right, so what we want to do now is run this code. We can see that the code was accepted. We started with 1, 1, 2 in an array, and then we ended up with just the values of 1 and 2. So what's happening here is in this if statement, we're checking if the values are equal to each other. So we started with I equals 0 and j equals 1. So when we're doing this check on the first iteration, we do not have values that are not equal to each other. This if statement fails, and so we go through the second iteration. When we come back around, j is equal to 2, and now nums 0 is not equal to nums of index 2 because index 0 holds a value of 1 and index 2 holds a value of 2. So when we do this check, the first thing we do again is increment I++, and then I becomes 1. So when we are about to do this assignment, we are assigning the value of 2 where the value of 1 was, which is in the middle index, which held originally the value of 1, and now it has the value of 2. Now when we're done with this for loop, we're going to have I again equals 1, and then we add 1 to it, which is going to give us a length of 2 for the array. So now we could submit this, and we submit and open up this panel. Excuse me, let's open up the panel so that we could see the performance. And wow, what do you know? This is actually quite performant. It may not look the best, it may not be elegant, but it sure works well. It outperforms 93.45% of the submissions for JavaScript. Now again, it's a little verbose, but when it comes to the performance, the results are there. All right, so now we are going to move on to the next solution that we have. I'm going to copy this and get rid of this function and start all over. So the first thing that we're going to do is map through the nums array, and we're going to pass some parameters here. The first one I'm going to call entry. The second parameter is the index, and the last one is current array, which is actually the entire array, the one that we're actually working on, which is nums itself. So we're going to run the splice function on the current array, which is nums once again. We're going to pass it the current index because that's where we want to start. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look for the last index of the current entry inside of the current array, which again is the same thing as nums. So we're going to grab the last index of entry, and then we are going to subtract index also. Now I've made a little mistake here. What we want to have is index plus 1. Because when we first find the first element that we want, any duplicates are the ones after that that we want to delete. So let's just add 1 here. So now what this is going to do is this also takes into consideration any scenarios where we have more than one duplicate. So if we have 3 or 4 duplicates, what this is going to do is find the last index of that final duplicate, and then we're going to subtract the index from that. So if there's 4 duplicates, we're basically going to end up with a scenario where it has something like 4 minus 1, which is telling it to delete 3 duplicates after the initial index, which we have index plus 1 here. So when we're looking at 1, again, the middle index is the one that we're going to mark as the one that needs to be deleted because that is the last index of. All right, so if we run this code now, we're going to get our results. And that's been accepted. So let's submit and see what the performance looks like. So this had a runtime of 172 milliseconds, which is not great performance. It's faster than only 7.67% of the JavaScript submissions. And now, the first solution was more performant, but it was very verbose. This is more elegant looking and just really one line or a couple of lines. But the performance is not as good as the traditional for loop with swapping things around. So I could run this again and we're getting similar results. Nothing really is changing. Sometimes you get variation because of your internet speed. But in this case, nothing changed. So I think it's time for us to move on to the third solution, which is going to be using the set data type from JavaScript. Most people have no idea about this and they've never used it. So it's pretty cool to get familiar with it. Set is going to be very similar to your JavaScript array, but it's going to have some differences. For example, it does not allow duplicates. And so just by knowing that, we can actually use set to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us by passing an array with duplicates in it, and it's going to get rid of that value. So here we run splice just like we did before on nums. And the first parameter, the index, we're going to start at 0. And then we're going to go all the way to the end of the array. And for the third parameter, we're going to pass this set nums. Now we're instantiating this and we're also using the spread operator there, which I can explain later. So if we run this, we see that the runtime is 68 milliseconds, which is faster than 83%. We saw that before we got a result of 64 milliseconds with the first solution that we have. But I'm pretty sure if we run this a couple of times, this solution is faster than the first one. So now let me explain what's going on here, because this one line of code it's got a lot. It's jam-packed with JavaScript ES6 features. So let's get to it. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to console.log this expression that we have here where we're creating a new set and passing it nums. Now what we should see is that the duplicates are being removed from that array, but it's going to be placed and displayed in a different format because this is a set and not a traditional array. So if we run this, we're going to see here that we have this set with 2 values in it, 1 and 2. Now notice our array up top has 3 values and it has duplicates 1. So the set actually got rid of the additional 1 and did all the heavy lifting for us. So now if we look at the rest of the syntax, specifically these 3 dots here, that's called the spread operator. And what that is doing is It's taking the values that are being returned from instantiating that new set with the values from nums, and it's spreading that out. And if we actually console.logged out and we put that inside an array, we should see exactly the values that we want. So I forgot a dot there. So there we go. And we run the code. And now we see the values that we're looking for, which is 1 and 2. There's a lot going on there, but there's nothing to be scared about. If you've seen this before, then you know this is business as usual. If you haven't, do a little research on the spread operator, and that'll tell you what's basically going on. So once we instantiate that new set with the nums in it, that itself gets rid of the duplicates, and just simply by using the spread operator, that gives us the values that we want. The splice method, the way it works is that third parameter is optional, but since we are replacing the entire array, since we're going from index 0 to the length of the array, we're replacing all of that with the contents of this expression on the right here with the 3 dots again, which is the spread operator, and the set instantiation is removing the duplicates from nums. So there you have it, fellas. That is your solution. If it's something you have not seen before, then give the video a thumbs up. I will appreciate that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am considering doing a talk or a video on set and map. There are 4 different data structures in JavaScript. There's set, there's weak set, then there's map, and there's weak map. So that's something I can get into a future video. If that's something you guys want to see on the channel, then please let me know. For now, I think we're done with this exercise. So the one last thing we can do here is return nums.length because we were not doing that before. All right, guys, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting. If you found value in the video, please hit the like button. If you want to continue to see content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you also want to share the video, that'll definitely help the channel. If you're not new to the channel, if you've already subscribed, please consider hitting the notification bell. I plan on doing a series about this type of content. With this video, I started out with a very simple example. I might create a new playlist and just start to make videos like this to put on that playlist. So once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. If you found value, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share the video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.